Welcome. So good to be with you on this Wednesday as we get together for a little midweek Bible study and devotional time. So glad you've taken some time out of your day, out of your week to join us to dive into God's Word and hopefully be uplifted and encouraged and challenged by what He has to say to us. You know, oftentimes I think there's something comforting about the categories that we often put ourselves and maybe even others into. Now, certainly there can be negatives, and I don't want to act like those aren't fully present as well. But I think oftentimes those categories or labels or whatever you want to call them, they help us to know where things belong and how things fit. They help us to maybe simplify what sometimes can be complicated realities, right? And so we are able to kind of fit things here and here and here. Again, that can have a negative connotation too, but there is also a positive connotation as well. And for many people, the label Christian has become just that, a comforting identifier. It tells us where we stand, what box we fit into, what group we belong to, at least for the most part. But when you listen to Jesus, you realize that labels and categories really weren't his focus, like at all. Jesus didn't go around simply asking people what they believed about him and kind of fitting them into this category or that category. He didn't hand out surveys. He didn't ask for verbal commitments or quiet affirmations. What he did again and again was look at and go to ordinary people in the middle of ordinary life and say two pretty simple words: follow me. Come and follow me. And that invitation is more than just an agreement, right? It means movement. It means reorientation. It means leaving some things behind and stepping into a new way of life. And Jesus later makes that very clear when he says these strong words in Luke chapter 9, verse 23. That's more than even just leaving some things behind. It's dying to ourselves, right? When he says, whoever wants to be my disciple, whoever wants to follow me and be my disciple, that's what a disciple is. It's a learner, it's a follower, must deny themselves, take up their cross daily, and follow me. In Jesus's time, to follow a rabbi wasn't just to listen to his teachings and to like what he said. It was to literally arrange or rearrange your life around him and following him. You watched how he lived. You learned his values. You began to imitate not just his words, but his way of being, his way of life and living in the world. That's part of why Jesus would say in Luke chapter 6, verse 40, a student is not above the teacher, but everyone who is fully trained will be like their teacher. That was the goal. And I think that's an important reminder for us because it's oftentimes possible to carry the label Christian, quote unquote, without ever truly arranging our lives around Jesus. It's possible to like him, to admire him, to respect him, even to speak fondly about him to others, while still keeping him safely at a distance from our daily decisions, from our habits, from our priorities, maybe to put it a different way, from truly surrendering our lives and our hearts, all of it, to him. But Jesus doesn't offer himself as just some religious accessory that we throw in our bag or throw around our neck or whatever it may be as we go along our daily lives. He offers himself as truly a way of life. He says this about himself in John chapter 14, verse 6: I am the way, the truth, and the life. And no one comes to the Father except through me. Not just the way to heaven, but the way to live life here on earth. And the good news is that following Jesus is not just about what we give up, it's about what we receive. When Jesus calls us to follow him, he isn't simply asking us to imitate from the outside. He invites us into a life where his spirit reshapes us, transforms us from the inside. I love how Paul puts it in Galatians chapter 2, verse 20. He says, I no longer live. I mean, I'm still living, but it's not really me living. It's Christ living in and through me. And that's what makes discipleship both challenging, because it is hard, and it is one of the hardest lives that you will ever live, but it's also one of the most rewarding and hopeful lives that you could ever live. Challenging because it calls us to surrender our whole selves, right? But hopeful and worthwhile and meaningful and purposeful, because it promises that real change is possible, and it offers a new way of life that goes beyond anything that this world can offer. And so maybe the question for us isn't simply, am I a Christian? I'm not saying that's a bad word. It's a good word. It means to belong to Christ. But maybe the question isn't just so much, am I a Christian? Maybe the better question is, am I actively and passionately pursuing and following Jesus today? Not perfect, but intentional followers of Jesus. Hope you have a blessed day. God bless.